Canada, once a symbol of hope, freedom, and opportunity, is now on the brink of an implosion. A country that welcomed millions with open arms now finds itself stretched thin, gasping under the weight of crisis stacking like dominoes. But how did we get here? How did the dream of the Great White North twist into a nightmare where families are forced into homelessness, where young graduates live in basements with no hope of escape, and where protests, a rarity in Canada, are now a symbol of desperation? This is not the Canada you think you know. But what if I told you that the cracks in this utopia were always there, waiting to split wide open? That this crisis didn't come out of nowhere, it was quietly built over decades of decisions, unchecked optimism, and a blind faith in growth. Today we'll peel back the layers of the illusion. We'll uncover the truth that Canada doesn't want you to see, and trust me, once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is the unraveling of a nation, and it begins here. 2 years ago, a 2-bedroom apartment in Toronto cost about $2,400 per month. Expensive, sure, but manageable for some. Fast forward to today, and that same apartment will set you back $3,300. That's a 25% spike in just 2 years. Imagine watching your rent climb faster than your income ever could. Imagine having to choose between keeping your roof or putting food on your table. And it's not just Toronto. Cities like Vancouver, Montreal, and even smaller hubs like Hamilton are seeing housing prices spiral out of reach. Want to buy instead of rent? Forget about it. The minimum income needed to qualify for a mortgage in these cities isn't just high, it's double, sometimes triple the median household income. That's right, Canada, the country that promised prosperity, is now a place where even the top 10% of earners can't afford to buy a home. But it wasn't always like this. What changed? And more importantly, why does it feel like nobody is doing anything to stop it? In 2015, Justin Trudeau swept into office like a beacon of hope. Young, charismatic, and full of promise, he vowed to bring Canadians together, to tackle inequality, to make life better for everyone. His message was simple: positivity and progress. The media couldn't get enough of him, calling him Canada's Obama. For a while, it worked. Approval ratings soared. People believed in him. They believed that his leadership would fix what was broken. But here's the thing about hope: it's fragile, and as the years passed, cracks began to form. Canada has always been a nation of immigrants. It's in its DNA. Back in the 1800s, the government actively courted settlers to populate the vast, empty lands of the West. They called it the New El Dorado, promising wealth and opportunity to anyone willing to make the journey. And people came: farmers, laborers, dreamers, building villages that would grow into cities. By 1920, Canada's population had tripled. Immigration was its secret weapon, a tool for growth. But even back then, it wasn't without controversy. Immigration policies favored certain races, reflecting the biases of the time. Canada wanted workers, yes, but only the right kind of workers. Fast forward to the 1970s and things began to shift. The points-based system was introduced, a meritocratic approach that evaluated immigrants based on skills, education, and language proficiency. It was a model for the world, hailed as fair and forward-thinking, but over time, even this system faced challenges. By the early 2000s, family-based immigration started to outpace economic migration. Critics argued that this was straining public resources, while supporters insisted it was the humane thing to do. The debate simmered quietly until now. In 2022, facing worker shortages and an aging population, Trudeau unveiled an ambitious immigration plan. His goal: to bring in 500,000 new permanent residents annually by 2025, the highest numbers in Canadian history. He framed it as a race for global talent, a way to secure Canada's future. But here's the problem: Canada wasn't ready. Immigration offices were already overwhelmed, with a backlog of over 2 million applications. Housing was in short supply. Infrastructure couldn't keep up, yet the government pushed forward, convinced that more people would solve the problems, not worsen them. And for a while, Canadians went along with it. After all, this is Canada. Immigration is part of its identity. But then reality hit hard. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine a country growing faster than it can build homes, faster than it can train doctors, faster than it can fix its roads. What happens then? What happens when growth becomes chaos? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think, because we're about to dive into the consequences, and trust me, they're darker than you'd expect. Stories like this are becoming all too common. Students packed into basements like sardines. Families living paycheck to paycheck, unable to keep up with rising rents. Immigrants promised a better life, only to find themselves trapped in a system that can't support them. And the backlash, it's fierce. In 2022, only 27% of Canadians thought immigration levels were too high. By 2024, that number had doubled to 58%. Protests have erupted in cities across the country, a rare sight in Canada, but a sign of just how deep the frustration runs. Trudeau's approval ratings have plummeted to historic lows. In a desperate bid to regain trust, he's made promises to slow immigration, to invest in housing, to fix what's broken. But for many, it's too little, too late. Online, the sentiment is brutal. People are saying you can't fix what you broke, and how can the guy who caused the crisis be the one to solve it? And yet the stakes couldn't be higher. With elections looming, Trudeau's legacy and perhaps Canada's future hangs in the balance. Canada has always been a land of promise, a place where people came to build better lives. But now it's at a crossroads. The dream of growth and prosperity is clashing with the harsh reality of resource limits and social strain. The question is no longer can Canada grow, it's can Canada survive its own ambition? What do you think? Is there a way out of this crisis, or is the Canada we knew gone forever?